small crimes. So then again, back to the broken window theory. By taking a bottom-to-top approach, you can help reduce the perceived risk in your transit system. And kind of last drilling home point, the focus on improving passengers' trust in the system is important, but really we should really focus on improving people's trust in their fellow passengers. Questions?
Okay, so for the New Jersey Transit, noting that it has the highest perceived risk factor. I mean, I'm from New Jersey, and the idea of crime, the idea on crime on NJ Transit never occurred to me, but I also know that NJ Transit is broken up into quite a variety of components. Like you have the local light rail lines, and then you have the statewide commuter rail lines. So I'm wondering if you, by chance, looked into how it's differentiated between the different components of the system in terms of the perceived crime risk.
I would say like more local trips instead of commuter trips. Commuter trips are more seen as less perceived risk because the type of people that you have on those trains is mostly people getting off and on work. Local trips, that's when you would see maybe the loiterers, like the homeless people or anyone else, started getting on those trains and starting to cause a perception of risk.
Were you able to get, I know that you were focusing on sort of the transit police data, right? Is there ever, is there a really strict line between when actual just like city police get involved? I think that particularly when you're talking about bus stops, where I think of them like a transit police, I think of them going to the train stations. I don't think of them as much responding to a bus stop issue. Was there any difference there?
I think that varies by agency, right? Like MARTA has its own MARTA police who work in conjunction with the Atlanta police, but then like BART, right, it's actually just governed by its city police. Oh. So maybe BART would have, maybe that even could partly explain BART's higher rate there too, but they may have an easier way of reporting transit-related crimes with one police force kind of responsible for the whole area versus, right, like you said, MARTA police, not necessarily just like cruising around for bus stops, looking around for like crimes that are near a bus stop or someone's on their way to the bus stop or something like that. So does that answer your question?
I saw that motor vehicle theft was one of the Section 1 crimes. My question is, how does one get his car stolen while riding transit?
At a parking lot. That's a good question. It could be, I guess, bus theft or something. Because a lot of them are parking, right? So that's one of the issues that happens on transit property at say
you guys talked about, you interviewed someone from the MARTA police. Did you talk to them at all about, because Austin mentioned 5 Points had the highest number of crimes. Did you ask them about that specifically? Because I've heard there have been issues at 5 Points where like the station technically ends, so MARTA police might not do something there, but it's technically in the city, so there's been kind of some issues between who's responsible there. Did that come up at all?
Actually, I interviewed them before the project even started.
Okay.
It wasn't actually an interview. We were talking more or less. It was in one of the preliminary, I was just starting like working there, and they run you through trying to get you to know everybody, and I kind of ran into him, and we talked on it for a while, and talked a lot about terrorism, so it was still fresh in my mind, so that's how I was able to go back and just contact him and say, hey, can I use you for our project? So no, I didn't get a chance to actually go into that depth, but it would have been cool to ask him those questions.
All right, thank you.
I was just a little confused about, you said you were unable to use any bus stop data for MARTA. Did I understand that correctly? Or?
No, they didn't have any data about crimes at specific bus stops. Only just like a general.
Okay, so there's data, but it wasn't specific to the stop.
Okay. Right. They had the system-wide data, even on a mode basis. So like this many of each crime on the bus system, this many in a parking lot, this many on the rail system. But they didn't have like for the rail, they had crime data on a per stop basis, but they just didn't have that for buses on that system.
Did you think of any, after the conclusion, did you think of some kind of next step to working with MARTA to try to alleviate this issue that they have with their perception?
Yeah, I think we were trying to formulate the actual formula that just so anybody could sit down with some rough calculations like the crime index, throw it into the formula, say they would get a general idea of the perceived risk. So I think we would like to see more of a survey analysis. Get out there and actually see what the people are actually thinking. And with that data, look at data, you can go in and then normalize it and then actually use the formula that would actually work. That we couldn't get ours to work perfectly. So that's
like we kind of gave like a really rough scorecard for comparing agencies based on some of the research has pointed to people feel uncomfortable around things that were on their homelessness. People are more comfortable around having more officers, but being able to normalize that against actual surveys of people's opinions on those systems would be one of our main next steps.
Yeah, and that's what we would probably like to work with MARTA on.
And just as another suggestion, if when you move into another phase of the project, if you, one way to carry this out, another, I guess, widen the scope is basically, I mean, the transit trip is, what's equally as important are the walking, before and after. It's kind of sandwiched in between those activities. So if that perceived risk is also very high, then you've only solved one, the middle of the sandwich, basically,
And that was one of the other things that we had realized it would be an area that would need further study.
And our paper kind of addresses the issue because those people in being buses and pedestrians instead of people that ride rail, they have the opportunity to change their trips more often. So if they see a perceived risk, they can go walk a different way or maybe jump on a different route, but maybe not in rail because rail's so stationary. So we kind of addressed that a little bit throughout our research.
Why do you think the heavy rail has a higher reported rate?
On crime?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think there are maybe several reasons. One is that the trips tend to be longer, I guess, but also because of the area that the station covers versus the area of a bus stop, and just kind of the difficulty of if a crime happens, I guess 20 feet away from the train, it's probably in the station somewhere, monitored by the transit police, and it's enclosed. It's often, and this isn't true for every station, but a lot of times it's a lot easier to say, oh yes, this was a transit crime that happened on the transit system versus 20 feet away from a bus stop. Who knows if they were getting ready to wait for the bus? Who knows if they were, I think that's one of the main issues.
So maybe it's being reported, but it's not being
Right.
attached to.
It goes into city data.
Yeah.
Right. It may go into
I can
exactly
see
into the
that.
city data instead of the transit.
The permanence of the rail lends itself to you reporting to them,
Right.
finding them responsible. That's interesting.
Right.
I think I'm actually going to cut things off there so that we don't run out of time, but thanks.